In the interior of Kalimantan, far from the hustle and bustle of the city, there is a village hidden behind the dense forest. The village is called Kampung Awan. It is said that this village has never been recorded on a map, and only a few outsiders have ever heard of it. Those who dare to enter this village often never return, or return in a state of madness. Doni, a cultural researcher, decided to visit the village after hearing stories from local residents about mystical traditions that are said to still be practiced there. Driven by curiosity and a spirit of research, Doni invited his two friends, Ronnie and Baggers, to accompany him. With complete equipment, they began their journey to Kampung Awan. Their journey was not easy. The Kalimantan forest is famous for its difficult terrain and many wild animals. However, the biggest challenge was the eerie aura that began to be felt as they got closer to the village. The trees in the forest looked different. Their leaves were dark and crooked, as if symbolizing suffering. The air around them felt heavy, as if something was watching. After 2 days of travel, they finally arrived at Kampung Awan. The village looked like an ordinary village, with simple wooden houses. However, there was something strange. There was no activity of the inhabitants, no human voices, only a tense silence. "Is this really the village?" Ronnie asked in a trembling voice. Doni nodded while reading the shabby map he brought. "Yes, this is Kampung Awan." Baggers pointed to a large house in the middle of the village. "Let's look for people there. Maybe there's someone we can ask." They walked towards the house. The door of the house was slightly open, as if inviting. Cautiously, Doni knocked on the door. There was no answer. However, when he pushed the door open, they were greeted by a pungent smell that pierced their noses. Inside, a dark room with old furniture scattered around. In the corner of the room, there was a large wooden statue with a scary shape. The statue's face was human-like, but its eyes were blank, and its mouth was wide open, as if screaming in pain. Ronnie felt uncomfortable. "We have to leave. This place is not right." However, Doni insisted, "We just arrived. This might be part of their culture. I want to know more." They decided to stay overnight in one of the empty houses. That night, the atmosphere became increasingly tense. The wind blew hard, carrying strange sounds like whispers. Ronnie, who couldn't sleep, heard footsteps outside the house. She tried to wake Doni and Baggers, but they were fast asleep, as if drugged. When she peeked through the gap in the window, she saw a group of people dressed all in white gathered in the middle of the village. They were carrying torches and seemed to be performing a ritual. In the middle of their circle, there was a figure standing still, tall and motionless. The figure looked like a human, but his body was too thin and his face was unclear because it was covered in shadow. Ronnie held her breath when she stepped back from the window. Suddenly, the door of the house opened slowly. She turned her head in panic, but there was no one there. Doni and Baggers suddenly woke up. "What happened?" asked Doni in a hoarse voice. "There are people outside," whispered Ronnie. "They are performing a strange ritual." Doni and Baggers immediately looked outside, but the circle of people was gone. "You must have seen it wrong," said Baggers, trying to calm him down. However, the expression on his face showed that he himself was afraid. The next day, they decided to explore the village further. They found that each house had a creepy wooden statue like the one they had seen before. Some of the statues looked even stranger, with twisted bodies and disfigured faces. When evening came, they met an old woman in one of the houses. Her face was pale, her eyes were sunken, and her voice was almost a whisper. "You must leave before nightfall," she said. "They don't like strangers." "Who are they?" Doni asked. The woman just shook her head. "Go, or you will become part of this village." When night fell, everything turned into a nightmare. Doni, Ronnie, and Baggers were awakened by a loud knock on the door. When they opened the door, no one was there, but footsteps could be heard around the house. The whispers grew louder, and the statues in the house began to look like they were moving in the corner of their eyes. In a panic, they decided to run from the village. However, the way out seemed endless. The forest they had previously passed through had now turned into a dark maze. One by one, they began to disappear. Baggers was the first. He screamed as something pulled him into the darkness. Ronnie and Doni continued to run, but Ronnie tripped and fell. Doni tried to help her, but suddenly the tall figure from the previous night's ritual appeared in front of them. His face was blank, but from his mouth came a sound like thousands of human screams. The story ends with Doni being found a few weeks later by local residents. He was found on the edge of the forest, in a daze and unable to speak. When they tried to find Ronnie and Baggers, all they found were new wooden statues in the village, with shapes that were very similar to the two of them.